Off. All right. Good evening, everybody. Welcome to Talking Landscape Photography for tonight. I hope you've had a really great week. Gentlemen, how's your week been? What have you been up to, Paulie? Any shooting or anything like that?
I just took 300 gigs of photos.
Good evening, everybody. Welcome to Talking Landscape Photography for tonight. I hope you've had a really great week. Gentlemen, how's your week been? What have you been up to, Paulie?
The
Tab open, Paul.
Yeah, it's probably me again, boys.
Yep.
How are we going? We good?
You got it.
Yeah, sorry about that. I think then it takes me a second to realize that's probably me. Anyway, so scratch that first 20 seconds, folks. I've actually just come back from 5 days photo documenting the Tasmanian Men's Gathering, which is the 20th year I think I've done it, and is at the beating heart of the ongoing exhibition I have, Men with Heart. So that was really powerful and evocative and beautiful and stunning and quite transformative for myself, even being a part of it, really. So pretty excited to put that together, and that's entering into a stage with our good friend Dex, where we're probably going to be transforming it into a book. And I just was meeting yesterday afternoon with South Australia and Melbourne. We were looking at starting to get the exhibition moving again around the country, which was the original plan last year before COVID hit. Just finished judging the Top Emerging Photographer of the Year Awards with Capture Magazine yesterday. Did 5 categories in the end. That's always pretty inspirational. And straight after the show tonight, I'm getting stuck into the Silver Lining Awards judging. And just so everyone knows, like, that is probably one of the best competitions in the world for feedback. So number one, everyone who enters gets written feedback and a certain amount of online live feedback. But also there's coming up starting next week, I think there's a whole series of live online shows with the top judges doing feedback sessions on the images kind of live, and that's actually free and open to everyone. You just need to register. So if you go on the AAPP website and look for that, that's potentially really, really valuable. And also those that are looking at getting involved and creating an exhibition, the head-on submissions are due, I think, next week or coming up very soon. And it's only $20 to put in a submission and have a crack at it. And you'll get told what tier you're in terms of acceptance. And if you're lucky, like I did once, I got accepted at the top tier, and they actually financially supported the entire exhibition. It ended up being up for 6 months in Circular Quay, so I wasn't complaining about that. I can tell you. And Nick can tell you about a new dream camera, apparently, that's floating up on the horizon. Do you want to tell us about that, Nick?
Well, it's not my dream camera, but it's a good camera. No, we were just talking about it before the show started. Nikon have announced made a development announcement of a new top-end mirrorless camera called the Z9. There's not many details on it, except that it's got a newly developed FX stacked CMOS sensor, new image processing engine, supports 8K video, which would be quite interesting for Nikon people to hear, particularly. Various other video specifications, and it doesn't really say much more than that, but it's a professional size body, so it's a bit like
it looks quite big and robust. Yeah,
but
looks like a lot of weather sealing, I'm guessing.
Vertical grip.
Definitely know a lot of Sony shooters that were hoping for a body shape like that, but I guess you can make it using a grip, but it's always nice to have it integrated like that. And is there any word on the resolution at all, do you think? Or
there's three thoughts, or three, either the 45 megapixel that the Z7 and Z7 II's already got, the D50's already got. But most people think it'll be 50 megapixels based on the Sony A1 sensor.
Yeah, this is really working towards that. Yeah, it's actually pretty clear, isn't it, that it's directly competing against that, even with the announcement time and everything. So
as I've pointed out before, Nikon also use Sony hardware in their sensors. They tweak them and they put some of their own improvements and design into them, so they're not the same sort of sensor.
They get a lot out of those sensors.
Yeah, so there's some thought that it'll be a slightly better sensor than the Sony A1 if it's the same base sensor. But who knows until we see the thing. And really, they'll be pretty similar cameras. They're pretty expensive. It'll be about 10 grand, 11 grand Australian, I imagine, for the body only. About 7,000 US, I reckon.
Yeah.
But we don't know much more about it because Nikon haven't told us more. They've just given us a teaser, basically, that it's coming up and definitely happening.
Do they often do that, Nick? Like, I don't often remember them doing
Canon's done that before.
Long, far-out teasers like that. Nikon, that is.
It's a new.
Canon's done it.
Yeah, the last couple of years they've started doing it. They did it with the D6. They did it with the. I think they did it with the Z7, but it's only been 2 or 3 years they've decided to do it. It's just a different marketing strategy. But what it does is it stops the rumor leak and the endless sort of speculation. So there's sort of they're directing the course of where the excitement sort of goes.
Yeah, rather than the rumor sites taking leadership. Yeah.
Yeah, it runs out of control, I think, and so I think it's just the companies getting a bit of, sort of edge back into it. It is exciting. It's being a Nikon shooter. Anything Nikon bring out, great. But it's certainly not something I would use. Just being a landscape shooter and not doing much else. If I was doing everything, then that'd be the camera that you'd want for sure.
What do you use at your work?
Nikon cameras, but variety. They're older cameras, they're X format cameras. We're sort of upgrading them as we go, but they're not professional level. We do have one D850, but that's for specialist applications, not general use. It's it'd be an interesting camera anyway. But enough talking about gear.
And Nick, you're going to talk about another upcoming competition?
Yes. So there's we were talking about competitions last week, and I wanted to mention this, but we ran out of time. It's not open until the 1st of June, but it's something that's fairly close to my heart in terms of its ethos, and it's called the Natural Landscape Photography Awards. It's being run by 4 landscape photographers, 2 from the United States and 2 from the UK, and they've set it up as I'll just read what they've said in the about, so it's their words and not mine. Competition aims to represent landscape photographs who recognise the power that comes from truthful depiction of the natural world. While other competitions may allow complete freedom in digital manipulation, this competition is for photographers who choose to work with the more traditional bounds of the medium while still expressing themselves creatively. It addresses the idea that the unique quality photography has over other artistic mediums is its grounding in reality. The competition showcases the skill of these photographers in revealing the wonder of the natural landscape. One of the most powerful aspects of a great landscape photograph is its ability to transport the viewer to relive a moment in time, distant location, or smaller scene through the eyes of the photographer. This helps the viewer to engage with the subject matter, understand the relationships the photographer wanted to express, and allows photographs to support the case for conservation. By constraining our photographs to represent the natural world in a truthful manner, we create trust in our art form's unique position to pair real experiences with artistic creation. This does not preclude the use of editing tools such as Photoshop, which when used sensitively can enhance the viewer's experience without misleading them. So that's their description, and I think we'll talk about it more in the coming weeks rather than bang on about it too much now. But
it'd be great to get one of the photographers that helped set it up on as well and talk about it a bit more too. So and
I think we'll be pushing to do that. The judges are quite outstanding.
Very notable,
who they've got for it. I'll just read out who the judges are.
I didn't get an invite, mate. What's going on?
I said outstanding, Paul. You are outstanding. There's no doubt. Anyway, Joe Cornish, William Neal, Sarah Marino, Alistair Ben, Alex Noriega, Adam Gibbs, Stephen Forster, and Sandra Batucha, but I'm not sure how to pronounce the last name. I'm sorry, Sandra, if you're watching. But that's a fairly notable lineup of judges, and it's great to see. It's fairly affordable to enter. The website is naturallandscapeawards.com, and that should give you a lot more information, but I think we'll talk about it a bit more in the future, and hopefully with one of the 4 creators.
That'd be brilliant. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, well, I think we're towards it. We'll see how we go. But it's just a nice to have a competition that is a little more restrictive in terms of the digital manipulation, I suppose.
Well, it just leans a bit more on camera craft, doesn't it, Nick, rather than post-production?
Yeah, it does. And look, they've got some really cool categories, which we won't go into now, but there's some interesting things, including projects, which is basically a group of photographs that you can enter as a whole.
Okay.
So it's really good. It'll be very, very hotly contested around the world.
I think that would definitely be a truly international competition. That one, that'll be very.
Yep.
There's definitely a subgroup of landscape photographers that really subscribe to that style. So I think it will be embraced very well. Yeah.
Yeah, it'll be particularly fierce from the UK photographers, I imagine, and it'll be embraced by a lot of Americans as well. So it'll be a big competition, and hopefully many Australian photographers choose to enter. I intend on entering, which I don't do very often. I only have one other competition I enter. So this one will be...
Well, it's just nice to support the competition to believe in as well, Nick.
Yeah.
And your entries do that financially and otherwise. So
yeah,
definitely.
That's the idea. Yeah, if you believe in an ethos and run with that. So yeah. Anyway, looking forward to that, but it doesn't open until June the 1st, so there's a bit of time, and we'll talk about it a bit later.
Yeah, definitely. I'm looking forward to that. And I've just got a couple of things too, sorry, before we get on to our amazing guest. But first one is in this current edition of Australian Geographic, there's a story that I helped to shoot about the Wukalina Walk, which is the only Tasmanian Aboriginal guided walk down this way. And it's a fantastic story written by Elspeth Callender. So if you feel like seeing some great photography, no bias there, then and of course great writing, then get get the current edition of the Australian Geographic, which is in most news agents around the place. And I'm actually starting to shoot a new story now too, which is pretty interesting, and got one of my first shoots tomorrow. So it's hopefully can talk a bit more about that down the track. And the second thing is around a workshop that I'm hosting on Bruny Island with the guys at Bruny Island Photography. So we've still got some places left on that on the workshop in April, thanks to COVID, unfortunately. So if you are very keen to shoot over on Bruny Island, and there's a lot of auroras about at the moment, I can't promise anything there, but it's a pretty nice time to be over there, so very highly recommend it, obviously. Just check out brunyislandphotography.com.au and you'll be able to find all of the details on there. Now, the reason why we're here, of course, is because of Mr. Heath Holden. Now, you're actually Tasmanian born and bred, aren't you, Heath?
I am. I'm a
yeah,
real one.
But now you're over in Qatar. How did you find your way over there?
Well, I got sent like a job opening by Ed Jones, actually, years ago. I was kind of in the space of looking somewhere international to go and spend some time, and I had a few options, different places, but then he sent me this job opening, and I sent him an email, give him a call, and then like 2 weeks later, we get on the plane.
Wow.
Just like
Actually,
that.
maybe a month. It was going to be very quick, kind of to leave, like within 1 or 2 weeks. But then we had to work through some visa stuff, so
and
maybe a month or so.
Can you discuss a bit about what you're sort of shooting over there and getting in preparation for?
Yeah, so we're working for the local organizing committee for the 2022 World Cup, documenting loads of different stuff, but lots like stadium construction, corporate events, a little bit of like advertising stuff like that with ambassadors, and it's a pretty diverse range of work.
Yeah. Have you gotten to meet any big soccer stars or anything, or that's sort of yet to come in terms of
yeah, they have brought some over. I've been here for more than 2 years, so
yeah,
we've had some people in and out, even more than
awesome.
soccer as well, like basketball, like NBA dudes, and
cool.
Runners. Mo Farah was here a couple of years ago, but yeah, they bring some well-known people here to kind of boost this profile.
Yeah. That's, and is everything looking like it's pretty well on track in terms of getting prepared for it all?
Yeah, I think it's going pretty well. I mean, there's probably some delay after this last year, but
yeah, fair enough.
But there's still more than 1.5 years, so there's like 3. So there's a total of 7 new stadiums. This is the major part of who I work for. These are the people who are building the stadiums.
Yep.
And lots of other infrastructure as well. So they had a stadium already, which was here for the Asian Games in 2006, and now they're building like seven new ones. Only $10 billion, but
jeez.
There's like three or four, 3 definitely finished, nearly 4. So it's it should be fine. Yeah.
Yeah. Awesome.
We won't talk too much about the Qatar bid in relation to the Australian bid, but anyway, we might get you into trouble if you start talking about that. But it's an interesting choice for World Cup.
For sure.
Yeah, no, it'd be cool. What's it like living there? I mean, give us a brief overview of what your week would consist of, or whatever time frame, and how you go about doing your living. It's obviously a different culture over there to what we have here.
Yeah, it's very different. I've traveled a lot before this as well. I lived in Singapore for like a year and a half, working there as well, but different. But it's very hot, mid-50s in the summertime. Very, very sweaty. But like, so daily work is, I mean, we have a variety of stuff. Like, so we have a diary, like a schedule. It depends what's happening around, like there's ambassadors, if there's visitors from international delegations and things like this. And then we cover this. If there's kind of a lull in that section, then we'll create some other projects as well to shoot and kind of fill in this time with like kind of a little bit of tourism type stuff as well. So this work is to promote the country, to bring people here for the World Cup.
Because it sounds very dynamic and diverse what you're doing there. It can be like all sorts of things that you're getting across. So I guess it's always nice when you've got a job where it's constantly changing and you've got different scenarios coming up.
Yeah, it's always quite different. I mean, there's stuff that's more interesting than others, but you just deal with that. That's how
most jobs, isn't it?
Yeah. What else? Yeah, there's some cultural things that make this work hard as well. You can't just cruise around and photograph anyone anywhere. We need endless permits to do this work. It takes a lot of time to kind of do something that in theory should be very fast. So like if you're going to shoot some pictures of, let's say, the Pearl, it's this fancy area. So like you need permission from the like the owners of the building, and then you need permission to be on the street, to photograph in the street, and then you need, like, it's endless. And we have kind of producers who work through all this as well, but it's quite tedious as well, because you can have these permits and then you'll go out to do this work, and then you'll get stopped every 20 meters by security. You know, that guy checks it. You walk 20 meters and then that guy checks it.
Oh, no.
It's like, it's frustrating, but
What's the reason that all these permits are in place, do you think? Why do they need them?
Especially in the public arenas, public areas.
Yeah, it's just how it is here.
Yeah, don't question it.
I guess
Yeah, I struggle sometimes to not question, but
and so I guess that's also very different work. And I know if anyone has been to Heath's website, and I very, very much recommend that, you'll see that he's got such a diverse skill set and has done some amazing work in some pretty out of the way countries as well. And so I guess, you know, something that I always wonder is, do you miss getting out into the bush and sort of like tracking the devils and trying to work out where to set up your equipment and that kind of thing?
yeah, I do miss it a little bit. I mean, I don't long for it to go home.
Spend a lot of time on it, I guess. So
Yeah, that's right. So, I mean, I miss, like, I came home for the exhibition that time, and it's like, to drive to Cradle Mountain and just stop on the side of the road and walk into the bush. It's like nowhere. It felt pretty nice. It was winter time and the air was so clean and cold. It felt amazing. But also there's this grey sky that makes you feel a little down sometimes.
Yeah.
I think everybody knows what that means. But so yeah, a little bit. But what was the other part of the question?
No, I was just sort of interested in. I mean, there's obviously a massive transition to sort of tracking around in the bush and being in a more of a like a concrete jungle kind of environment, I guess. And so just getting some reflections on the differences there. But and I think you know, as we go through like the process that you would have taken to get these images, you know that I guess there's just an entirely different way of working, and it's almost the complete opposite in some ways. But it does really speak a lot to the diversity of work that you can do as well. But in terms of the Devils, that was you sort of did it. How did you come about the idea of getting into that body of work?
So it just started from, so I was in Singapore, and then I finished the contract there, and then I moved back to Tas. So I was just going through my mind about what I can work on, you know, to keep busy there. Obviously I'd go back and freelance as well, but I had to work on something that was meaningful and to keep inspiration and kind of stimulation in your mind to improve as a photographer. So the most obvious choice was a devil. So this was like 2011, so 10 years ago. So yeah, it's endangered. I started looking around on the internet to see what had been done previously, and really there wasn't a lot of stuff. There was a lot of captive work and a lot of stuff that looked a little bit just not
more sort of stage stuff too, I suppose. Like they've been taken in a park rather than actually out in a wild type environment.
Yep, exactly.
You can really notice, you can sort of pick those images pretty easily.
Yep. So that's kind of what I found, and lots of the same kind of shots. You know, that devil with the big mouth open, and it's impressive. But if that's all there is, well then, you know, it needs to be more. So, and that just kind of put this idea into place about just a simple idea. Just started like, I just wanted to get some good natural shots of devils. That's all it was. And then I kind of worked through this in my mind and trying to figure out how to do this. And I've been looking at National Geographic stuff for a long time. And so I started researching what these guys do to photograph tigers and other elusive type of mammals in the wild. And I just started honing in on a couple of certain guys who work for National Geographic, and just kind of researching, looking at the videos that they make, like behind the scenes stuff. So then you can pause in on these videos and
sort of reverse engineer things.
Yeah. You can see what they're using and listen to endless podcasts with these guys and just kind of pick up any kind of information that can help. And this kind of just started the process of figuring out about remote cameras and what to use, where to buy this stuff. So that's basically the beginning of it. And that was to simply get natural pictures of these devils in the wild without any kind of, they're not, none of them are baited or anything. That's all totally real. And then you kind of figure out you solve one problem, like getting these shots in the nighttime. And then like these are nocturnal animals, pretty elusive. Then there needs to be lighting. So it just opened up this huge kind of problem.
Yeah, Pandora's box. And I suppose
Yeah.
you probably rapidly realized why there wasn't so many photos of the devils when you look, because of how elusive they can be. And also, I mean, there's even, people that have been living here for quite a while that have never seen one in the wild. So to actually be able to search one out or set equipment up in a place where you'll be able to get those shots takes a lot of patience, I would think.
Yeah, it took, well, I mean, I worked on it maybe, I would say 6 years, not like full time, but I would have some breaks now and then where I got too busy with my kind of normal work, like freelancing stuff and whatever. But then you'd come back fresh, you'd have a fresh idea, you'd find a new location. A lot of the time, like I would be out mountain biking with my buddies, like I've ridden bikes all my life, and you kind of come across these areas where I'd stop and then I'd just be kind of snooping around and I'd find some scat or some prints, and I would just kind of memorize this location, and then I'd go back as a different human and start this kind of work.
Different human, I like that.
More of a
Think like a devil, like
FBI.
be the devil.
Devil hunter.
It's interesting, Heath. I use you as an example all the time when I'm talking about the effort that goes into pictures or natural pictures, and the sort of lengths you have to go to get the shots that we can see on your website and we can see at your exhibition, that we can see published now in National Geographic. But the challenges, I mean, let's talk about them sort of one at a time, but just off the top of my head, you have to know where the devils are going to be. So you have to research the area. You have to have camera equipment that can stay out in the weather and housing that is waterproof. You've got to be able to power that equipment, and you have to be able to set it up in such a way that it's triggered when an animal comes across its path. You have to anticipate where the animals are going to be. You have to light it in a way that is sympathetic to the animal and the area that it's in. And
not overlight it too. You don't want to get the golden shot and then it's all blown out or something as well.
So all these obstacles. I mean, just powering the cameras and then having to solve that issue, and just keeping the cameras dry enough so they're not going to fail on you. Just having enough cameras and the right type of cameras to be able to get the shots you want. I mean, just I've heard you talk about this stuff briefly before, but let's start going through and breaking it down a bit. And if people aren't, it might be worthwhile while you're doing it to start bringing up some photos, maybe share the screen so people can see what we're talking about, and you can start going through some of these issues. And
Yeah.
and like I said, you really are. This project in particular is really an example that I bring up to say to people the efforts that have to go into wildlife and some landscape photography is quite extraordinary, and it's hard to convey in that pretty picture that you're seeing on the screen before you flick on to the next picture. And I think if people could understand a little bit more the sheer effort that goes into something like this, they might linger and look a bit harder at the photo rather than move on to the next pretty picture.
Yeah, thank you, Nick. That means a lot. So I'll share this screen.
Yeah, please.
So I'll just go to the same collection of my website, that freshly kind of sequenced series from this whole collection. We'll do it from Lightroom. I'm a Zoom novice, so
all good. We can see the screen now, so it's all good.
So yeah, so that what you said there, Nick, is spot on about all of the problem solving, the gear, the cameras, keeping it dry, lighting. There's so much there that it's quite easy to overlook. So I used to be a mechanic, actually. Feels like a long time ago, but let's just say it was a few years ago. I was a Toyota mechanic, and I did that for about 6 years. So I have like this, I've always had it anyway, like fixing things, making things, whatever. And this actually came in very handy with this work. Making housings for like Canon. So this camera trap shots were all with like middle of the range Canon DSLRs, like 1000Ds, 50Ds, just middle of the range. Even the 1000 was a piece of crap, but I bought it for $50 and it went for years. And actually it probably got the best selling picture that I've ever had.
Wow.
10 megapixel, and it printed, you know, one of those prints at the exhibition.
Oh yeah,
with a
meters.
1000D, you know. So this background in like mechanical, technical kind of stuff really helped out. Soldering wires, like building like cables to adapt from Canon DSLRs to Nikon flash. You have to pull them apart, switch kind of the wires to different connectors on the hot tube. And so this all comes into this research that I did looking at these guys work.
So I guess it's fair to say, you know, it's definitely not an off-the-shelf sort of setup that you've got there. You've really custom built something that'll obviously, you know, handle the conditions and also, you know, do a very specific job, I suppose, as well, which is probably not something that you find anywhere.
Yeah, not really. You can now, actually, but you can do it wirelessly now. It's actually a really good company, and it's called Camtraptions. They make some really nice stuff. You've probably heard of them. The founder is Will Burrowed Lucas. He's just released a book actually on black leopard in Kenya.
Wow.
Scribble that down and have a look at that. It's pretty amazing. But back then, like say 10 years ago, it was actually a different story. You couldn't buy this stuff. So yeah, I had to make it.
I think it's still an element too. It's one thing just to plonk a camera there, but you know, you've thought very hard about the lighting and even where the animal will be positioned. And were you actually targeting in this shot? You were expecting the animal to be kind of in this position, and so that's how you set the lighting up for it.
Yeah. So I would I would monitor an area like this with a trail camera, just a little box, the Bushnell thing, and sit it there for weeks and see what movements these animals are doing. They go back and forth. So there is definitely some luck in these kind of shots. But if you're not prepared as well, it won't happen.
Sounds like you made your own luck, though. I guess if you put something in the right place, there's going to be a right time at some point. So yeah.
Yeah, exactly. I have quite a few shots from this spot and a few nice ones, but this is definitely the Mona Lisa for this devil. And so this is actually a 30-second exposure.
Really?
This is a.
Oh, so it's the flash that catches the action.
Yeah. So it's all flash lit.
There's some moonlight there, though, is there?
Question to answer. Well, it's all flash, but it's kind of made to look like. It's lit. There's two flashes. So you can see this, right? Yeah. So there's one lighting from here which is snooted. So it's like tunnel.
Yep. Really targeted.
Directed,
yeah. Yep. And then there's one up high in this tree here, which is this kind of
rim light. Instead of rim light.
Yeah.
And the light out here is gelled with like a half CTO.
It looks a bit warmer. I was going to ask you that.
So it's a tad warmer. And then this cooler light gives it that kind of ambient type of look. You can see the difference in this tree here.
Yep.
The warm there, a little bit of a blue there.
So I guess that really helps to play on the three-dimensional feel that you get as well, which is really cool.
Yeah. So it gives it that kind of cinematic color separation. So this is obviously this is processed, but unprocessed is this.
Oh, jeez. Devil belly changes it all.
So it's really not.
You nailed it big time. Wow.
Just kind of worked that kind of side there to look bright, and just kind of dimmed it down a little just for some. It just has a nicer mood.
Yeah, definitely like a big vignette. Yeah.
So what was the reason for a 30-second exposure then?
Well, I think I had it on. I think I had this on aperture priority. I can check. And because it's complete dark, it just cranks it out to 30 seconds.
Yeah, right.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah, I got you.
Yeah, so average priority. Typically, I didn't do that, but I would set it.
So you're quite wide at 18, so 28 effective width.
This one. So I would usually hover around like this low 1 second, quarter, just depending on if I had it set to shoot continuous shots. Like these triggers you can set to take to trigger like a pulse every second for like 3 seconds or something like that. So you can't have you couldn't have the shutter speed longer than the gap between the pulse because it'll clash, so it won't work.
So with this being 30 seconds, it was just a one-shot wonder in that sort of sense that it just happened to be that's even more amazing. Yeah.
Did you notice any response from the animals to the flash?
Well, it was always different actually. I mean, they knew something was happening. The flash power on these was usually like around 1/16 or something like that. So it's not a huge bang of light, and it's always fairly
fast
shaped. The light is shaped, so it's kind of.
That's right.
Like
I mean, that one you can see it's only one eye that it's hitting, not the other eye. Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm.
So actually, I think this is a 50D or a 60D. I mean, that's at like 300%.
Yeah.
For an old clunker, it's not bad.
Yeah. It's
Yeah. It's the beauty of Flash.
Yeah, that's all.
Flash gives you very sharp pictures.
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay, what else? So finding these locations, trail camera, kind of figuring out the most kind of used area. They would come and jump over this log. I didn't see him a couple of times. I saw him walk along this log. So this was very lucky, actually. But
Heath, do they have trails they sometimes follow? So there's some consistency in terms of where they roam?
yeah, they will use the same kind of area around their den, I think, for a couple of weeks, and then they will move to somewhere else, and then they'll do the same thing. I think they could have like 4 or 5 dens, maybe within this square kilometer.
Oh, that many
two.
dens. Yeah, right.
Yeah, so they'll session this, and this is my theory as a non-biologist, backyard scientist. They will session this area, eat what they can, and they might know that they've got everything. Then they'll move on, session somewhere else. Through the night, they can go like 10 kilometers. They'll go to roads. They'll eat roadkill, or an old whatever that's passed away. So
Are they territorial and they don't have, they fight over certain areas or have a
they
certain
do have a
roaming?
range. So, but they do also cross paths. They're solitary species, but they will interact while feeding and then go their way. So they're
And so
basically by themselves.
And so, in terms of like how long you would leave a rig like that sort of setup running, are we sort of talking like just a few days or weeks, or I guess you've got a certain amount of battery power that you've got until, and then it's sort of kaput after that?
Yeah, so I will leave it there. Like, obviously, it depends on the shot that I'm kind of visioning. This one was 6 months, I think.
Wow.
So it took maybe 6 months to get this picture from finding the spot, monitoring the spot, finding the spot, setting up, to getting the one that I kind of had in mind, getting the shot that I could.
Oh my God! Hats off to you, Heath.
Mm.
I would not have the patience for that.
And
So
back,
these, sorry, you go, Heath.
yeah, I was just going to say about the batteries. So Canon cameras, Nikon as well, probably, but I've never really used them. But they have a really good sleep function, so they can go to sleep after like a minute, and then this is sort of where this other gear comes into the equation about. So the camera is asleep, okay, but then once this infrared beam is triggered, the camera has to fire straight away. It can't like wake up, like 3 seconds later, it has to go fire straight away. So this infrared stuff that I use has this, like it's super fast, and the camera doesn't miss. Every time, if you break this beam, it will fire. And then, so the camera will sleep. Like you can get a month out of a 6D battery.
Oh.
I mean, if it's
Even
triggering
in those
all day,
cooler
whatever,
temperatures.
but yeah.
Wow.
Up
Go
to
Canon.
one.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, but you always like you won't leave it for a month and not come back, just because of the the nature of the kind of the environment. There could be trees falling,
Foliage.
yeah, just things that might stuff it up. Chewed cables, I had just a few times this happen, so that's also lucky. But I mean, if they chew the trigger cables, then it's not going to work at all. So if you don't check, I could say an average 2 times a week, probably.
Right.
Yeah, there's a lot of driving for this. This is near Cradle Mountain.
And so, do you check? Do you kind of look? I guess there's the battery, but then there's also the card that has all of the magic on it. Is it a matter of just sort of like getting the camera out and you just look at sort of chimping through all of the shots, just seeing if there was anything there, or you know how when you, or do you get it, bring it all at home and then you're sort of scrolling through and just hoping for something, or how does that play out?
Yeah, so I would take it out of the box. So I made these boxes. I had some made out of aluminium and some made out of like a pelican case kind of thing. So they will sit there with like a port. I do have some pictures. I don't know where they are.
Oh, that'd be awesome.
Give me a sec. And then I'll get to the spot, open the box. I sometimes kind of camouflage it a bit. Just kind of peace of mind. But there's no people walking out there, so it's very unlucky if that ever happened.
Your organization system is very impressive. I guess you have to with so much information that you need to manage. Yeah, it's if you need to know how to get to it.
I do have one here somewhere. So I would pop the box open and pull the camera out and press play, check through the pictures, and then when something like this comes up, man, it's amazing.
Yeah. That's what all the time's there for. It's what makes it all worthwhile. So yeah, it's fantastic.
Setting up the
Okay, here we go. So this is the first time I ever went. 2012. This is it somewhere. I can't tell you where. It's a national park, but I just don't know if I have I do have pictures of this. It's me.
Are you using your head there to make sure it's not blowing out?
Oh, that's crazy. Yeah, that's awesome.
Nice shot. Yeah,
the light meter, like to get it spot on.
Yeah.
Oh, you're mentioning all that trouble and it just blows out your exposures. Be like, oh.
Yeah, definitly.
It's literally
this is great.
When you in the action, that's that's about as close to it as you get, isn't it?
Yeah,
down on the ground. And
so I would use a string, like a string line. The infrared thing was like a two-part transmitter receiver, and so to make sure that these the transmitter light, so the infrared light, aligned with the receiver, you use a string.
Yeah, you'd have to get it the right height, I suppose, wouldn't you?
So then you can gauge the height, how high's the devil. Maybe you could say a foot maximum, maybe less actually, 20 centimeters. So then you can kind of imagine where this is gonna cross this path. And then you can start to set focus. I would usually sit something there, or on the string, and then you can start to light where you kind of think this devil will be. What else? I do have. Oh, hang on. Here we go. Out in the bush.
Oh,
Oh no.
Okay, so back
Crunchy.
to back to this thing about like how often to check this camera.
Yeah,
So like,
yeah.
look at the crap on here. It's just from
You got like gaffer
rain.
tape all over it, or what is that?
Just covering
The
it,
hood
just doing
setup,
what I
yeah.
can to. So this splatter here is basically just from rain hitting the ground, and it's
Bouncing up into the lens. Yeah, right.
yeah. So
Crazy.
if you missed a good shot because you didn't maintain it, that would kind of be a horrible feeling.
Yeah.
Pretty hard to fix that up.
Yeah. The spot tool's not that good.
Oh, look at that. And you got the snoots there on the. Yeah, right.
What were you using for your flashes, Heath?
They were so which flash? They
Oh,
were
both of them.
yeah, Nikon SB28. They're an old model. They're from like the olden days when people used film. Back in the 1800s.
They were cheap. I
Good
imagine
one.
you got them because they were cheap. Is that why, Pete?
So actually they're not. It varied on eBay, $70 to $100 US. But so these, how I mentioned about the Canon camera bodies and the battery life and the sleep feature, these flashes actually have an amazing sleep feature. They can go for a month as well on 4 AA's.
Wow.
Yeah, right.
So you'd use alkalines, not rechargeable.
Yeah, I was going to say, yeah.
It's a lot of waste, and I use thousands of batteries. But alkaline batteries don't die; they will sit for maybe years, and they won't. The charge won't.
The holy charge, yeah.
So they will sit there. These flashes have like a 30-second sleep function. They'll go to sleep, but they'll also stay charged. So the capacitor will stay charged. And all of this system is kind of specific because the infrared trigger that I use will send a pulse every couple of hours. It will wake the flash, and it'll recharge the capacitor.
Yeah, right.
So all of that cable stuff that I was doing, soldering and changing from Canon camera to Nikon flash, this was all specific. So this worked like exactly how it should.
Oh, that's brilliant.
And so then when this beam is eventually broken by an animal, the flash is charged and it will fire as soon as that camera fires. There's no wake up time. It will go. Yep.
Wow.
Fantastic. And I guess that one thing that, is really impressive as well, I guess, as you're saying, is that, it's not a necessarily a very expensive setup either, what you've put together. And I guess if it's sitting out there on months on end, you don't want to be putting high grade equipment out there, and being a photographer, it's not always, you don't have a bottomless pit of money. So it's really impressive results given the investment as well, I would think.
Yeah. Like, so to start with, I didn't, none of this work was funded by anybody other than me. And so from the beginning, you can't go stick a 1DX out there or anything like that. So it would be like a 20D actually was the first thing I started to use. And then I upgraded to 1000D. But actually it was amazing because 20D doesn't have live view, and focusing that thing down on the ground like that, terrible.
Yeah.
So the live view was a major improvement. And then I would look on eBay and buy, a 50D or whatever, and just with the purpose to use it. And if it gets wet, whatever, it doesn't matter.
It sounds like the whole setup would have been almost well under $1,000, I suppose, like in that sort of ballpark.
Probably. The infrared stuff is the most expensive thing. That
Yeah.
was maybe.
And you actually got an infrared conversion done down the track just to have a bit of a play around too, didn't you? Yeah.
Yeah, I made a I had a 5D2 and I converted that.
They're great cameras in infrared, the 5D2s. I've got one of my all-time favorite photos out of one of those cameras. It was fantastic.
Yeah, it was really nice. Where am I? Here we go.
Well, how many cameras were you running at one time?
Just usually maybe two or three.
Yep.
So this here, this is an infrared picture with the 5D2 and also infrared flash. So this was the same flash, but basically in the same setup, but with like a infrared lens filter over the tube. And
it's amazing, yeah.
Quite nice. This is at Arthur River.
Mm.
And so there's a couple of lights here, like lighting up this. I like this fence. And this here is that pig face, I think. Yeah.
Beautiful work. It's brilliant.
It's definitely unique way of doing it in the infrared. Gives a very different feel.
Oh, hang on. Let me just...
Oh, yeah.
So this is without any. I mean, obviously it's going to be red, but.
Yep.
So this is how it looks. Yep. But they make really nice black and white.
Mm. That's awesome.
I was just looking at your website, looking at one particular photo of a devil with terrible tumors that you got on the camera trap. It's sort of on a little track in the bit of snow around as well. Yeah, that one.
Oh, jeepers.
Yeah.
Oh.
So, I mean, this really sort of illustrates, part of the purpose of the project, I suppose, Heath.
Yep.
Do you want to talk about this aspect, I suppose?
Yeah. So over the years, so to start with, it just was kind of a mission to get some nice pictures. And then I learned a lot more about the animal, and obviously I knew about the tumor as well, but then I just started to look more into this conservation kind of angle, and I had access to some really great parts of land, and just this is horrible.
It'd be obstructing its vision even, yeah. Wow.
Yeah, it really, he probably didn't live long after that.
So it's a cancerous tumor that's spread by they can nip each other, isn't it? And it gets passed that way. Is that right?
Yeah. So these animals are quite aggressive to each other. They bite, feeding and mating, and it's just a straight up cell transfer. Anything like they bite each other around the face, and it just comes off the mouth of the other one, and then it just starts to grow in the other devil.
Almost like a virus. Yeah.
Yeah, it acts like a virus, but if you go and tell one of these scientists it's a virus, they'll soon
that's
tell
like
you
the elementary level for them. Yeah, that's it.
Yeah.
But it is unusual for cancer to be transmitted that way, I would have thought.
Yeah.
So
it is very rare. There's only a few types of cancers that are transmissible.
Heath, when in the whole sort of series of the project did you start aligning it with, other people and organizations and conservation in particular? Like where was that transition between your own project and this wider kind of context?
I guess I started thinking about it as a larger story, and time-wise, what year I'm not sure, but then I just got in touch with. Actually, what happened? I saw there's a UTAS Science Volunteers page on Facebook, and I saw one of the guys asking for volunteers to come and help, kind of with a trapping and like a survey kind of mission that they go on. And so I thought, okay, this would be cool to kind of dig deeper into the world of this animal. And it just started from there. I think I had done something for the UTAS in a completely different job, a photo job for something there. And so I made some contacts in UTAS and Menzies Institute. And they're the guys doing the major research. And so then I just got in touch with, her name's Miranda Harmon, and she let me come down, and I spent some days in Menzies and shot a lot of stuff in the lab, like this one example. And then it just kind of grew, and then I started doing more conservation type assignments for like Tasland and people in Tas, magazines, stuff like that. And then it just evolved into this wider story. When I started this, all I could think about was like a National Geographic story. So my head was like, okay, what do I need to do to make this into this level of work? And obviously it just can't be camera trap pictures. So then I just started looking into what I would need to do to fill in gaps in this story, which would be science. I mean, you can't have a story without these people doing the research, the lab, the science, the immunologists, all these guys that are working here to try and figure this thing out.
And are you aware at all where things are at with the facial tumor? I guess you've been not looking at that for a while, but are you aware if it's sort of stabilizing, or maybe you might have some ideas on that too, Nick?
Yeah, I haven't. I mean, I do keep a bit of an eye on this stuff as well from here, but it seems to be like there has been a natural kind of evolution in the devil's immune system to fight this, definitely more than say 10 years ago. So it's a very slow process. It has to go through generations of new blood. But I think it will be okay.
So basically it will evolve to
only very slightly
to be resistant to it.
Yeah. So
was it like 80% loss of the species, like at one stage? Or
yeah, that's kind of been the number that gets put out there, 80% reduction.
my understanding there's some evidence that there's either a subspecies or a different
like a gene
pool of devils on the northwest that have managed to sort of escape it.
Yeah, so they are just a bit more resistant, I think. So there's been a larger reduction in population in different areas of the state. So the bloodline might be stronger in the west. And then there was this new discovery of a population way in the southwest as well, which also had different kind of genetic makeup.
Oh, I didn't know about that one.
And
then which ones have they put on Maria Island? Was that some of the western gene pool, or?
Not sure.
Yeah, so the Maria, for those that don't know, Maria Island was sort of, I think the term they use is like a devil ark, where they put some Tassie devils on the island, just a healthy population is kind of like just to safeguard the species, I suppose. If everything became extinct on mainland Tasmania, they still had a population on Maria Island. So I think thankfully it's looking like it'll stabilize out, like Heath was saying, and maybe that worst case mightn't come to be, but there's still a lot of protection required, and still unfortunately roadkill as well. Which you had a quite a dramatic shot too, Nick, and around that, and virtual fencing too, wasn't it?
Yeah, similar shot to what Heath has on his website, actually, but I took mine with a slightly different perspective. But just a dead devil on the road that I came across after being out shooting with you, Luke, one night, and a couple of other photographers, and I decided to stop and document it, and it ended up getting picked up by the company that is investing selling virtual fencing, which is one of the solutions that are being looked at to stop roadkill. And roadkill isn't just a problem directly for a devil getting hit, it's also getting hit by a car crossing the road. It's also other roadkill attracts devils to the road, and then they get hit while they're consuming roadkill. So, it's a bit of an issue. But I just wanted to, there was a very recent development on the numbers with Tasmanian devils. This is only from the last 6 days, and I saw the story on the ABC, but basically there's an estimate that there are 17,000 devils in the wild at the moment, down from the peak population of 53,000 in 1996. And they are expecting the population to decline to about 12,000 in the next, what have we got here? Within the next decade, go down to 12,000, but it should plateau and then rebound.
That's when the resistance sort of, they're sort of, we're going to, I guess that's that herd immunity sort of scenario, which is probably totally not applicable to that case, but I guess in that sort of, that sort of mindset,
so it's basically saying that the disease is spread to 90% of Tasmania, which is almost all of their geographic range. And that the spread of it has significantly slowed from the mid-2000s when the disease front reached areas of Western Tasmania with lower devil densities. So it basically started in the east and moved west, is my understanding, and sort of spread out that way. And this sharp decline is predicted to level off within the next decade. Thankfully, there are some glimmers of hope, and the outlook for devils is better than it was a decade ago, Dr. Cunningham said. No monitored populations have gone locally extinct, and our model forecasts the decline should plateau within the next decade at about 12,000 devils. These findings suggest the species is at lower risk of imminent extinction than we thought 10 years ago. So that's good news.
Yes, hopefully it turns out like forecast, I suppose. That's the key there. And obviously, there's a lot of scientists, and Heath's captured that very well, that are working on the disease and trying to understand it and help to secure the population. Heath, we've had a couple of questions come up on YouTube. One of them was around when you're actually on the ground there, kind of getting all of your traps set up. Do you know if there was ever any impact in terms of you leaving a scent there or anything that may have kind of turned the devils off? I don't know, maybe you didn't have a shower or something, or was there anything like that? Do you know if that could have been a problem?
I mean, it's always possible, but really I didn't see any kind of effect from this.
I guess you would have noticed if you had the camera, like the more trail cam data, you would have noticed if that had fallen off in terms of their activity versus when you had everything set up. And if you don't notice a difference in that, then it's a pretty good assumption to make that you didn't have any impact in that regard too.
Yeah, I expect there's no impact, but maybe this stuff was left for so long, I mean, I don't know how long the human scent would remain somewhere, but just from what I witnessed about the activity of the devils around, there was really nothing that was bothering them.
Oh, that's great.
You know, that was quite natural. They were very, very calm around these trail cameras. Even when the flashes would go off, you know, you can kind of see them. They're like, they know something's happening, but it didn't seem to scare them. Yeah, I mean, there was probably a few that ran away, but it's kind of be expected.
Just to jump here to speak to this image because it's so powerful. It's been sitting in front of us. So, and to talk a little about the devils. My understanding is that Tasmania has some of the highest rates of roadkill on the planet, and the devils actually aren't really hunters; they're more scavengers. So that's one of their main attractions to the roads, and also, unfortunately, one of the most fatalistic habits that they have. And how a lot of them have been killed. And I remember on the west coast up near Marrawah, there was some university scientists that actually developed a set of ribs in the road to create a lot of vibration and noise to actually scare the devils off the road as one experiment, because they recognized that the significance of that, and they placed that in the northwest where some of the healthier population was left as well. I don't think they've actually proven it to be clearly successful, but yeah, like a lot of people don't understand that about devils is they're not actually really hunters. They're far more scavengers. So
Carrion eaters, yeah.
Yep. Yeah. So this is a big downfall to the species. They've clearly figured out that there's easy food on the road, and snooping around on these dark country roads, they can find a wallaby or whatever, and this sometimes is the result.
And it's a reminder to us as landscape photographers, those watching, etc., particularly if you're coming to our national parks or some of the more remote roads, such as the Tarkine or anywhere really at night, just be really careful driving around, because some of the roads that you'll be driving on are roads that haven't seen a car for the last 2 or 3 hours, maybe longer. And as a result, the animals get very, they're on the road for a long time and they don't realise the cars are coming, and then suddenly bang. And it's one of our responsibilities as landscape photographers, moving about before dawn and moving about for astrophotography and in the dark, that we just slow down, as it says in Heath's photo here, slow down and watch out.
They're very hard to see. They're very dark.
Yeah, because their colour, That's right.
And it's not just that. You just don't have time to react. I nearly hit a devil once driving at less than 40 kilometres an hour to Dove Lake for a morning shoot. It was just on the road, and I nearly hit it, and it just about brought me undone. I was that upset about it, and I wasn't really doing anything wrong. I was travelling below the speed limit. I was travelling quite carefully, and I still, because of the nature of the road, nearly hit this devil. Came around a corner and just bang, there it was. Thankfully, I didn't, and I've never hit one, which is just good luck rather than good management, to be honest, because
and you can get the bolt out of the blue as well, where it's just I don't know if I know the wombats do that a lot, but where they just sort of come in from the side of the road, and there's just no chance.
Oh, look at this.
That was a brilliant capture to speak to that narrative, Heath. Well done, mate.
Yeah, and explain this photo for us, Heath.
So this was out with David Hamilton. He's a UTAS researcher, PhD. He's probably Dr. David now, but we went out for a couple of weeks at Arthur River, and I helped him out with this trapping trip, and also just photograph some things as well. So they will check the health of these devils that they trap. They will take some blood, some hair, any biopsies if there's any suspicious growths, and if there's pouch young, they will check those guys out as well. And yeah, little guys, pretty comfortable in there.
That's two Joey Devils in the pouch, and
Yeah, there was 3, but yeah,
3.
man, they're in there. They're very comfortable.
Yeah, that's awesome. So it's not as where is the pouch? I assume it's underneath, but
Yeah,
I've never
like
really thought
belly
about
button.
where the pouch is.
Yeah, stomach, middle of the. Flip them over, and it's right there in the middle.
Yeah, right. Does it
Is
face
it backward facing like
wombat?
a wombat? Is that what you just said?
Yeah, same
Yeah,
thing.
Oh dear.
It's well, if it probably is slightly, but it's because it's underneath. It's kind of so it's not like a wombat where you go in from back. It's underneath.
Yeah.
Stomach.
Yeah. Just so people know what we're talking about. The wombats have a pouch that faces backwards, so when Mum's digging up the ground, she's not throwing dirt straight into the pouch, and that's why it faces backwards. Can't believe we both came up with that at the same time, Luke. Crazy.
I thought, I guess devils do a fair bit of digging, so that's scratching around and things like that. So
worthy question.
Yeah, for sure.
Another worthy question. Danny Coubert's just wondering where your beer is, but I'm assuming it's a bit early for that.
Well,
lunchtime.
It's 1:45. He's been telling me he's going to bring me one for a long time, but I don't think he has a passport to leave Hobart.
No, it's pretty hard these days. Yeah.
I
think I tried to catch up with you when I was over there, but it was like 4 a.m. or something in the airport, so it didn't quite work. So I'd love to one day catch up over there.
Yeah.
So just to give the audience a bit of a picture, so if you gave a time scale to all the images you've got in this presentation here, what would it be roughly?
As in like what year to year?
Yeah.
So this one.
Oh, just the length of time, just to give people a sense of how to create a body of work with this level of narrative,
So this is end of 2017. This one here. Oh, actually, how will we find the first one?
You put them on capture time.
2012. This one's 2012.
Oh, so like we're talking 5 years, yeah.
2019, you've got the pouch photos.
Yeah, 2019 as well. Yeah, actually, yeah. This is before I came back here. Actually, this is right before I left, and I went to Kenya for 4 months.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, actually, this was really like the last week, and then I left.
So that's
Got a
span of 7 or 8 years in.
Yeah.
Did you ever end up pitching it to Nat Geo or something similar?
Yeah, I've pitched it a couple of times. They've done a web story with it, which is nice, but the magazine is really the aim. I will work on this more, but for now I'll just pause. But
do you have to have a kind of pre-existing relationship or introduction to even be able to knock on their door, or how do you build that kind of relationship?
It's pretty tricky. The first one that I did was through. How did this happen? There was a writer here doing a story. I think she just happened to be here for something else, and then she just kind of started doing a little bit of research, and then they needed some pictures, so she got in touch. I sent her a bit of a selection, and then they used a few pictures in that. And then once you build like a little bit of a relationship with a journalist there, or a writer, whatever you want to call them, you can start to work through these people, because then they can get in touch with they can get direct to the office, which is in Washington, through their picture editor. or the science writer, or whoever, the natural history editor. So then they can start to pitch for you, which is, it gives you a big advantage coming from somebody who's written, 20 stories for the magazine. So
yeah, and that's kind of like the ultimate for any sort of wildlife photographer or documentary photographer, really, or travel photographer, really, to make it into Nat Geo, isn't it? I mean, that's the ultimate.
Yeah, the magazine, it's different now, but it's still an amazing magazine. It's gone through some changes over the past few years, but
How would you describe those changes, Heath? It seems to be a bit scaled down.
Yeah. It's gone to I think it was non-profit for a long time, and it was based on I guess subscription and like philanthropy kind of based. But now it's a more of a for-profit commercial company. It's owned by Disney.
Yeah.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
And how has that shaped it in terms of content and subject material?
I haven't looked at it too intensely the past couple of years. I have a subscription online, but I just kind of flip through it. Actually, I do more looking in the archive for older stuff now.
Yeah.
I've got a really important question, actually, that I just thought of. In your folder list there, I didn't actually see it, but I was just wondering where your thylacine folder was.
It's hidden.
Keeping on that one.
Oh.
We had the latest.
Obviously, it's not just devils that you pick up, and it's probably closer than the paddy melon one that's recently made the news. But did you pick up more than devils in the traps when you had them set, like possums or anything like that?
Yeah. I got a lot of other cool stuff. I got some nice quail stuff.
Nice.
They're not really worked on at all, but
yeah.
Oh, it's awesome.
Beautiful. Love that cracked earth.
Mhm.
And is that the moon glow in the background?
Yeah, I think there's the moon and Port Sorel.
Yep.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
But this cracked earth actually was. Actually, we can probably look at this.
So that's an example of what you'd get on a trail cam?
Yeah. This is a video.
Oh, okay. Yep.
I have thousands of these, like.
And then just I guess you can watch over and over and see which way they scurry off, and
Exactly. But
they all look like 11-second clips, Heath. Is that part of how the camera works, or
you can just set the time for the video? Yep. But this cracked earth was when I came across it, I had to do something. So this one I worked on this for months and months.
That's fabulous. Yeah.
There was some footprints in there somewhere that I could see, and as soon as I saw these prints, I probably went back the next day. Set up. There's prints in there somewhere.
actual devil prints. Yeah, right.
Yeah, fantastic.
And that must be more around blue hour too. You've got that nice color in the sky, and that balances it nicely.
And 25 seconds.
Oh, of course.
So you get the nice ambient
light.
Yeah.
Beautiful.
One thing I really wanted to touch on, Heath, and it comes back to all the work that you've put into these photographs, and it's about the ethics of wildlife photography and camera trapping and that sort of thing. And I know you and I have talked about this a couple of times in passing, but just so everyone's clear, and you've already said it tonight, but there was no baiting or attract or anything that you used to attract the devils or the other animals. You simply researched and put the cameras where you knew the devils were going to pass through. Now, that's not the approach of all wildlife photographers, and it's something that gets talked about quite a lot, and it's probably something we haven't really touched on here on the show much yet, because we're landscape rather than wildlife. But did you want to have just sort of talk about what the ethics and the of how people go about this sort of work sort of sits, if you know what I mean?
Yep. I just feel like if you're out there like doing this work, say, and you're putting some kind of whatever to attract these animals, you'll get a picture, you'll get it quick. I just feel like there's no challenge in that at all. Like you're not going to improve as a photographer. You could say, it's cheating or whatever, but who knows? But I just think I'm just trying to double do two things here.
I guess you can say that these were truly in the wild. I mean, you haven't done anything to modify their behavior as such. So, and that, you know, when you're putting out bait or anything like that, it's changing how they feed and, or, you know, where they get their food from and things like that. So,
yeah, exactly. Like it's just unethical, and you're actually just cheating yourself of your own work, you know. Is there any satisfaction in putting some stinky old fish there to bring in an animal? Like there's no challenge at all. It's so easy, you know, anybody can do that. And so yeah, as well, you won't improve as a photographer, you won't your knowledge won't grow about like behavior of these animals. What else? You know, like you have to challenge yourself, and this is kind of why I put these little things in place when I started this work. It was going to be real, non-captive, no baiting, you know, just as natural as possible, and to see if I could do it. And you know,
and have you had
very satisfying?
Yeah, it would be very satisfying. But have you had questions from you know, photo editors, competitions, or from anyone else about, you know, the nature of these photos? Like, are they, as you say they are? You know, is that something that gets commonly asked, or you know, what has been your experience?
I've never really been like hit with hard questions about it. I've shown extra kind of shots of certain scenes where I guess people need to be sure, editors, photo competitions. But I think if you're an experienced picture editor, say for a magazine, and if you get like a selection of pictures broad enough with enough examples of a scene with animals in it, they can tell that like this is real. If there's something there that's attracting an animal, they're going straight to this thing, you know. They're not walking around over a log, standing on the end of a log. Like they're not, their behavior will be totally different. And these people, you know, they've probably been doing this for who knows, 10 years or more, and they can see this, you know.
And do you have a personal favorite image, or one where you were just kind of like, you know, and a shot that you had visualized for so long, and then, you know, you actually, you know, I mean, I'm sure a lot of them were like that, but was there one that was just kind of like the cherry on top, I suppose?
Yeah, so there's probably, I mean, if I have to say one, it's the snow picture. This one took 3 years
Yeah.
for everything. Like, so Nick, when you mentioned earlier about everything having to work together, like the camera, the flash, the environment, like it's just the stars aligning kind of thing, you know, where like, yeah, this is the one for sure.
Yeah, awesome, man.
Yeah.
And that's got a bit of a tumor going as well.
Yeah.
Yeah. Do you find like that the snow actually can interfere with I guess it needs a proper physical barrier to trigger the infrared rather than like the snow's just not enough?
Yeah, so for this one, the snow wouldn't be enough.
Yeah.
You can also change like the sensitivity of these infrared things. I use 2 different types of infrared triggers, let's call it. There's an active type and then there's a passive type. The active is like the beam one. So this
like
beam
a tripwire sort of thing, like a virtual tripwire. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And it's like it's a 1/4 inch beam, and it'll span for 50 meters. Like this thing is strong. And you can basically endlessly adjust the sensitivity or the delay. Like there's a pulse every half a second, and you can tell it how many pulses it has to miss before it will fire, how long it will send the signal to fire. So you could, in theory, you could set your camera on bulb and tell this infrared thing to say, take a picture for 3 seconds, and it will just do that. Or you can work it as well from the camera as well. So, yep. And then the passive one is basically like a very high-tech version of your burglar alarm. That's like that kind of, it will monitor that area, right? It's quite general, but it's a wedge of area. And you can adjust this kind of thing. I've got it here, actually. I can show you to you if you want.
Yeah, cool.
And also,
I imagine that one doesn't go as far as well. It's a bit more closer in.
Yeah, it just works a little different. You can set its sensitivity as in how far it will kind of monitor. But in terms of accuracy, you can get this thing spot on. Like it's a line. And if you had an animal that comes to the line and stops and walks backwards, you won't get the picture.
Yeah, right. Look, it's an incredible body of work that you've got, Heath, and just an amazing dedication over many years to a very worthy animal and a very worthy cause, done with the highest of skill, talent, ethics, everything, mate. And it really is an absolute tribute to your everything you do with photography.
OCD.
It's fantastic. And I was just wondering, we've probably got 10 minutes or so left. Obviously you've done an awful lot more photography in your life. Do you have some other things that you'd like to show us, just to show us what sort of skills that you have other than the Devils?
I can show you 10,000 real estate pictures.
No, thanks. No.
Are you self-taught?
Maybe 10,000 houses.
Are you self-taught, Heath, or did you do any formal training or anything like that?
No. Yeah, self-taught.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, you could say self-taught. But really, the start was working in a newspaper environment. That's really where this all
kicked off.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Um,
Well, show us this
so
stuff.
a different kind of body of work here would be, I can show you a couple of things. So once I finished that final devil picture just before I left, I went to Kenya for 4 months, and I went there for a couple of reasons, but overall it was to improve my work as like documentary type work. And I got a chance to go out into northern Kenya with a conservation group. It was actually very out of the blue. So I went on a couple of week-long camping trips in the Samburu, which is way in the northern Kenya. And it's called the Gravy zebra. It's endangered. There's only around 2,000 left.
Wow.
And they're in the very, very small part of northern Kenya and southern Ethiopia. They're the biggest zebra. They're the biggest wild horse. And this was just a little kind of collection of work from there. And they work with these local tribes. There's Turkana and Samburu, and they work with them to kind of maintain grazing territory. There's a couple of things happening at once. They have major drought there every year. This is a river, but clearly no river.
It's like a road, yeah.
Yep. And these tribes live out in villages, and they have cows and goats, and they graze it. But there's only a certain amount of livestock that you can have in an area before it becomes detrimental to the
Unsustainable.
exactly, yeah. The grass won't grow back, basically, if it's overgrazed. So they're working with these guys to put in kind of a program to kind of make sure that they're not left with no food.
What are they doing there?
Is that like a filtering?
Yeah, it's like a demonstration about here we have grass, here we have a drought, and the effects of how the soil will hold the water if you have vegetation versus what will happen when you completely destroy the vegetation. And
very visceral demonstration.
Yeah. Fantastic.
All right, classroom.
There's no recycle.
Free air conditioning.
This dude was amazing.
Yeah. Wow.
Wow, he looks like an interesting man.
Yeah, the stories that would come out of these guys would be amazing.
Wow.
This is just with a 50mm and one little flash.
God, love those nifty 50s.
Yeah. The color out there, amazing.
Is that their everyday dress or?
Yeah.
Wow.
Really, every day. So it's not just a traditional dress.
Oh yeah, this is real. This is the real stuff.
Jeez.
And they have ambassadors, like Gravy zebra ambassadors, who monitor these areas where the zebras travel through, like their migration kind of, what's it called? Yeah, trails. And just to make sure, like there's some poaching that happens out there. They just try to keep this stuff under control.
Did you see much evidence of that, or document anything around that, or was it sort of a bit quieter when you were there?
There wasn't anything. We were on a bit of a different mission.
Yeah.
But I rode in the back of a Land Cruiser for like 2 weeks. It was amazing.
Yeah,
I may
wow.
have had some beers in the back as well.
How's your ass after that?
Yeah, the roads out there. Yeah, bumpy. Like Invermay Road, kind of. And this was kind of the purpose that I went out there to. When I spoke with it's called the Gravy Zebra Trust. So this was like the kind of main objective for me to go out and just try to get some nice photographs of the zebras with camera trap. So this is with a 6D, 17-40, 20 seconds, ISO 2500. Beautiful.
Yeah. Yeah, fantastic.
Yeah, one of the best value camera units out there, I reckon.
Yeah, well, that's that 17-40s. Yeah, no slouch either. But, yeah.
Yeah, I used to have one ages ago.
Me too.
Yeah, that was the first L lens I ever bought. Probably
yeah, me too, I think.
2000 and I don't know, mid 2000s sometime.
Yeah.
6, something like that.
Mm.
Still got it. It's in the bag. That will be the camera trap lens forever. What else?
I'd love to see some stuff from Nepal as well. Yeah.
I haven't really got anything.
Oh.
This is like work in progress.
That was more of a personal trip when you went there too, wasn't it? In some ways. I guess you shoot everywhere you go. But...
I did go for an assignment.
Okay.
And then I added on, and then I went to Everest. Amazing. I'll go back. I've been there once again after that, but this here is I've got these to show, so I'll talk about this, but maybe next one we can prepare some Nepal. So this is an island called Lamu. It's on the coast of Kenya. It's this very tiny little Swahili settlement. It's like it's basically the oldest continually inhabited town in East Africa.
Wow.
Amazing, and it's very northern. It's close to Somalia. They have some problems here, but for the most part, it's a cultural overload.
Have you been into Ethiopia at all, Heath?
No, but that's somewhere I would like to go. Yeah.
Yeah, I hear it's amazing for wildlife up in the mountains. Just quite incredible.
Yeah.
I'm assuming you'd have a list a mile long, Heath, of things you'd like to do as well. It'd be hard to choose sometimes. And I guess you have to try and find a story in it too, to be able to create a bit more of a body of work in it.
Yeah, that's right. That's a big part of kind of what I would do from here on, the kind of what's the story. It could be small ones as well. But one thing I would like to work on is something about coffee.
Oh, yeah.
And coffee, and I've had this major interest in volcanoes all my life. So this is something that I'm thinking about.
Coffee in terms of the ethics around it, Heath, or the culture around it, or?
Yeah, the culture and basically the regions where it's grown. Just visually, like, amazing.
Yeah, it'd be pretty
There's
rich.
a lot of people that love their coffee, so I'm sure that there'll be a lot of people interested in that.
Yeah, and like the industry, like the
it's a huge economy in the world, and has a lot of impacts on the way countries and areas are run, and there's a lot of dubious ethics around how it's created in terms of relative to where. It's quite a complex story, I reckon.
There's definitely a big move to ethical sources for that. So yeah, that's interesting to see it at the grassroots level.
Coffee and volcanoes. They go together very well, actually. Most coffee will be growing in a volcanic soil.
There you go.
There you go.
So
Yeah.
this is it's usually high altitude, very rich, kind of fertile land. That's why it comes from like Central America, Indonesia, through Africa, Kenya, big coffee producer, Ethiopia. That's where coffee started.
Did Kenya sort of expose you to that and help to start brew up the idea, or
Probably a little bit. I already had this idea, but I went to a couple of coffee farms there, and yeah, just really amazing kind of industry. Anyway, so this is Lamu.
Where is Lamu exactly?
So it's on the coast of Kenya, very northern. It's this tiny little island.
Oh, it's an island.
was-
Yeah, right.
It's very small. Very what's the word? So it's a Swahili town, which is it's a mix of Bantu, African, and Arabic.
how do you feel like you must sort of stand out in these sort of places? Do you you get a bit self-conscious, or you sort of try to just yeah, I don't know how, I'm sort of trying to place myself there in these very foreign environments and trying to get pictures and yeah, do you have a particular approach or a kind of a way about yourself that really helps?
Well, like clearly you stand out. You walk around a town like this and you stand out, and you do feel a little self-conscious. I just talk to people. You just be friendly and approachable. Don't just do's and don'ts travel everywhere.
I guess it's just about general respect, isn't it? And if you can show the respect, then yeah, they can.
Yeah.
Hey, do you use a more a less obtuse kind of camera system when you're walking around doing these candids and street work?
Yeah, this is all with 2 Leica cameras, a Leica Q and a Leica M. So they're
Fairly
they're
small.
They're small. They're quiet. I mean, people know you're taking pictures, but it's
They fix focal length as well, or they have interchangeable lens.
The Q is a 28.
Yep.
And I had a 50 on my M.
Okay, that's a nice combo.
So all of these are with a 28 and a 50. Yeah.
Mm.
Which is nice for this kind of stuff. This could be one of my favorites from there.
Mm.
The color there is amazing. Like these old Swahili buildings. You can see the Arabic influence, but all African as well.
Mm.
So there's no cars there, right? So just donkeys. Only donkeys. There's probably 2 cars. There's like a garbage truck and it's probably an ambulance. I don't know.
Wow. I assume you just walked everywhere, yeah?
Yeah, I was there for 2 weeks.
Mm.
It's a long time. Most people go there for 3 days. Like you can fly from Nairobi in about less than an hour.
Would you have a general rule in terms of being at a place and sort of being able to, I guess, understand it and that, if you were there any shorter, you wouldn't get the kind of pictures you were after? Is it 2 weeks kind of around that kind of time frame, you reckon?
Yeah. I think so. I walked.
Love
This
this
is a
one.
small little town, and there are endless alleyways. And like the first few days, I just felt lost. I had no idea where I was. I had no idea where, you know, how do I get back to that interesting looking spot that I was yesterday? I had no idea. So you just kind of walk aimlessly and hoping that you might find it. But then after, say over a week, if you walk enough, you'll start to know. You'll leave your wherever you're staying. You'll get your kind of bearings, and then you can go back like when there's better light, better time of the day, and you'll learn like what's happening on the street. There was some days where it was completely quiet, there was no people, and then there was certain times where there was loads of people moving back and forth between work, middle of the day, like they'll go for a break, they'll go for some lunch or something like that. So you'll just kind of learn about the movements of the town and what's where. You'll get to know people as well, like in little shops and stuff like that. So you can pop back and visit and say hello, and and you'll learn where the coffee shop is.
Learn what was that? Learn
where the coffee shops are.
Oh yeah.
And the beer.
Oh, that's fantastic.
A shot like this, Keith. Heath, I was just kind of thinking it's actually probably my favorite shot of the series, and I sort of feel like there's this sort of lurking voyeuristic kind of feel about it, and like I don't know how I would feel if some guy was just waiting there in the shadows for someone to come past. Like that would kind of freak me out. Like I'm not.
Well, actually, he came out of that door there.
Oh, lucky. Yeah, okay. Because someone's walking past me from behind, I'd be like, what's going on here?
Yeah. You have to be careful of this there for sure.
Yeah, if you walk down the wrong alleyway at the wrong time, or you get to it.
Just trying to think. Hobart. What is it? Glenorchy.
Glenorchy.
Careful.
I mean, it's interesting. I mean, obviously, it's not a high wealth sort of place, from what I can tell. And you're running around with expensive cameras around your neck and on your own down sort of alleyways in the middle of nowhere, kind of half lost. It'd be on my mind a little bit.
Yeah, you just have to be wary, like. That's kind of the only thing I can probably say about that. You just have to be aware of surroundings. I would say it's no different if you were walking through Sydney at nighttime.
Yeah, fair enough.
Nairobi also, very intense place. After dark, you probably don't walk around. But the same thing, I know people who have been belted in Devonport outside the pub. So
yeah, lots actually.
Yeah, they could know.
Yeah, it's
King Street.
Really think about like this. Yeah, King Street, legendary. Spurs Saloon.
Yeah.
Look, thanks so much for sharing all of your amazing work with us tonight, Heath. And I'm sure all of viewers would agree that, it's just a fantastic body of work you've put together over many, many years, not just with the Devils projects, but also with all of the other places that you've sought out and captured. And I very highly recommend going to Heath's website. It's just heathholden.com, isn't it, Heath?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a great site.
There used to be photography on the end, but I found the domain. Somebody let me have it.
Yeah, cool.
It's shorter. It's better.
Fantastic. Awesome. Well, we thank you again. I think we'll be back at the same place and same time. I don't know if you guys have anything further to add at all.
Oh, I just really, really appreciate your your courageousness and your foresight and your capacity to what's the right word? You're very forthright in terms of making things happen and putting yourself out there and trying to move in big circles around the world and for a Tassie guy, that's pretty damn cool, mate. And I appreciate the craftsmanship in your images, and you're not trying to talk beyond the image through post-processing. A lot of the time you're really, it has a real pure documentary feel about it, which is harder to find these days. And I personally really appreciate it as well.
Thank you, Paul. That means a lot.
Yeah. And look, just for me to end on as well, I've already said a fair bit of praise, but I just wanted to add that the Tassie Devil work was groundbreaking, and it's a very important piece of documentary photography to us here in Tasmania, and thank you so much for doing it.
Yeah, a lot of dedication, and as you can see, over almost a decade really, in terms of that. So fantastic stuff. All right, well, it's been fantastic, everyone. So we'll sign off there, and we'll catch you next week. See you, everyone.
Keep well, Heath.
Well,
Yeah, great.